What I want to share today is about vulnerability. I was doing hair the other day, last Wednesday, and I was talking to my sister-in-law, and we were talking about our stories. And she was sharing about how she didn't want to go to a group and discuss her life, the things that she's been dealing with, the things that have been hard to face or to talk about, and yet she feels compelled somehow to share her story or to connect and to be with people. And I identified with that. I understood that feeling of wanting to share my story and really not our stories. I can see her story, just this beautiful story, and oh, you got to share it, and it's going to be so good, and it's going to help you, and it's going to help a lot of people, and then I think of my own, and I get stuck. And the first thing that I think of is being vulnerable, and then the second thing I think of is shame, and I've realized that in life, it's not only, how do I say this? This is another good example. The other weekend, we got together with as sisters, and we were talking and sharing our stories and our life. And when I was, 14, 15, 16, I went through a season of my life where I did drugs and partied and skipped school and the typical story. And when I was 19, I was still a senior in high school. I ended up getting my own apartment and still finishing my last year of school. I went to school. I worked a job at Perkins. I paid my rent payment. I bought groceries. I bought toilet paper. Went to school as much as I could. I did graduate, and at that time of my life, we were talking about that, and my sister-in-law had said, "Oh my gosh, you were such a mess." And I stopped her and I said, I really wasn't. I did those things, but my home life, when I looked at my home life and I looked at the chaos and the life that they lived, I wanted out. And so I created a way that I was able to get away from that. And who does that, right? Like who, their last year of school, that's like my son Colin, who was 17, and being on his own, making his own house payment and paying gas and buying toilet paper, and that was me. And yes, did I make some bad choices, doing drugs, selling drugs, not the best choices, but at the same time, there was a lot right with me. And when I think about my story and I think about shame and vulnerability, there's so much that I actually am proud of myself for. But when I tell the story, I feel as if other people are ashamed or shaming me. There are certain things like doing drugs and selling drugs. Is that a good choice? No. But it is a thing that people do to survive and to numb, and I understand that. And so when my life was pretty broken from, my stepdad dying and my real dad dying at a younger age, I mean, there was just a lot of pain in my life, and the people in my life were not transparent, vulnerable. We were a people that believed in healing, and my dad wasn't healed, and he died, and nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to say anything. And I thought, that is weird. And so to be in that environment where I think, wow, we aren't talking about this. This is a big thing that happened. And so then to go those years and suppress that and to push it down, only makes sense that you would find a way to numb, whether that be drugs, whether that be food, whether that be whatever, staying busy, watching too much TV, whatever the thing is, whatever the numbing agent, whether it's drugs or food. As a society, we're like, well, you did drugs, so that makes you bad, and that makes you sketchy, and that makes you, I don't know, I think there's just makes you human. And when I think of my time after my dad had died, and the season of me being a teenager and making those choices, there was a lot right with me getting away from the people that didn't want to talk about it, that wanted to cover it up and not discuss it, and yet we would want to pray about it and go to church about it and help other people, but yet we were broken and we were sad and we were grieving and we had issues that we weren't willing to talk about. And so I think back to those times, and there was a lot of the way that I thought that was right, that was good, but yet other people thought I was a mess. And because of the shame from the outside, not having a dad then, well, you know, she's got issues because she doesn't have a dad, and, you know, she went through this. And I remember people whispering, and I remember, but nobody was, hey, wow, are you okay? Like, it must be really hard. And there wasn't empathy. There wasn't this willing to jump into our mess and to risk asking or saying something dumb. And so I think from that, I see today how I don't share some things that I can think that is completely, I get, like doing drugs, and people are like, whoa, I'm like, yeah, it's a survival. It helps you to not feel. And sometimes pain, the trauma, the thing that happened, it's so deep that to me, it does make sense that people numb. And yet the world or the church, people, I'll just say people, don't know how to empathize or to gain an understanding. Even if you can't understand, you can empathize. And because of that, there's so much I don't share. And I believe, like, my sister-in-law doesn't share because somebody's going to not get it, not understand, not empathize. And we stay stuck. So I wanted to read this thing from Brene Brown, which hello. My phone just dropped. Okay, we got it. All right. Here we go. It says, I gathered up the courage to talk about my experiences with a group of 500 parents who had come to one of my parenting lectures. I gave an example of standing over my daughter, watching her sleep, feeling totally engulfed in gratitude, then being ripped out of that joy and gratitude by images of something bad happening to her. You could have heard a pin drop. I thought, oh God, I'm crazy. And now they're all sitting here like, she's a nut. How do we get out of here? Then all of a sudden I heard the sound of a woman toward the back starting to cry. Not sniffle cry, but sob cry. That sound was followed by someone at the front shouting, oh my God, why do we do that? What does that mean? The auditorium erupted in some kind of crazy parent revival. And as I had suspected, I was not alone. Many of us had experienced being on the edge of joy only to be overcome by vulnerability and thrown into fear. Until we can tolerate vulnerability and transform it into gratitude, intense feelings of love will often bring up the fear of loss. So what I want to say to that is that feeling of when she's talking about her story and she's talking about this experience that she's had, and she feels kind of crazy, but at the same time she's sharing this like I can't be the only one. And then it's quiet. And I think a lot of us have had that experience. in life where we've shared something and it's quiet, it's crickets, or someone doesn't get it, or somebody says something really stupid, or something really hurtful. We've all been known in life where there's people that just don't get us. And if we have enough of those experiences, if we even have one of those experiences, it can make you not share. But the freedom is found in sharing. And even though it can be challenging, it's letting the cat out of the bag. It's that thing is inside you, and it's meant to be shared because it releases you. It lets you go because you don't have to stay hidden. You don't have to be shameful. You don't have to be scared. There is somebody out in the world. Maybe it's not the 4 friends you share it with, but there's somebody out there that feels like you feel. Yes, we are individual, but we are so human, and all of us need to share those things, not just so that we can help people. It's our own release. It's our own freedom. It's our own story. It's accepting this is who I am. These are the mistakes. These are the things that were done to me by no fault of my own. This is the way I handled it. This is for our freedom, for our release. And it wants to keep you. And until we start to share, find people that have earned the right to hear your story. You don't have to share it on Facebook. You don't have to share it with your husband. You don't have to share it with certain people. You don't have to share it with the group that you signed up for. Give yourself permission, and I think that's a big thing, is even find the people that will give you permission. Say then share it with one person, but to keep it all suppressed, or to think that you're the only one, that's where the entrapment happens. And I'm speaking to myself. So just wanted to share today and get that out as a message to myself. Keep sharing.